Hey, welcome back to the AI Moms. This is Mary with the AI Moms, and today I'm featuring something super awesome. So, as a busy parent, as many of us are, especially around this time of year, and then let's add to it election season. So, we as parents do a lot of things to ensure the safety, the prosperity, the happiness of our children. And one of those things is voting, right? And so we often look to vote for things that we think are going to benefit our children in the long term, in addition, of course, to us now, but definitely our children, right? But how do we sift through all those propositions that they have on the ballot? When I do try to familiarize myself with the ballot measures, it's often in jargon that is very convoluted, and I don't really fully understand the downstream impacts of these ballot measures, right? What does it really mean to me in the day-to-day life? So what I often do when I'm driving, I consult with my ChatGPT buddy, who, funny enough, I call Will. I don't know why, but I like the name Will, so I call him Will. And so Will and I will have a conversation. And one particular day, I was like, "Hey, fill me in on the Arizona ballot measures." And I was blown away by how it really helped me understand the ballot measure. So I want to share this with you guys today. So I'm going to just jump right in. So I've already pre-prompted this, and I'm going to show you how what I've written. And you can use this for any state. So I actually also tested it for the state of Michigan because I have family in the state of Michigan. And interesting enough, not a lot of ballot measures in the state of Michigan for this upcoming election. But for Arizona, we have 13 statewide ballot measures and 1 county measure. But what you can do is you can use this prompt, and I will also type it in post as well. So can you provide a full list of ballot measures for the state of Arizona, the city of Phoenix, and the county of Maricopa for the upcoming 2024 election? I had to work on this prompt a little bit to ensure that I got the full list. I got it for, the state, city, and county. So update it with your information. So I'm going to go ahead and send that off. And what I've also done, I have done so on my phone as well. So now that you've seen what I've sent, it's, search the sites. And so you can see the statewide ballot measures for Arizona. You can see right here, the Proposition 138 would change the minimum wage for tipped workers, allowing employees to pay them 25% below the regular minimum wage. So that's one thing that we've got going on in Arizona. What's another thing we've got going on in Arizona? Proposition 311, a legislative measure introducing a $20 fine for criminal offenses to fund life insurance for first-time responders killed in the line of duty. And then we've got the county proposition, and that's about transportation excise tax for 20 years. So you can see it's provided the list. Now, one thing that I do know in Arizona, we've got 13 measures. So I'm going to just re-prompt it, provide the full list of measures. So here's the full list of measures, and here we should see all 13 propositions. And our county proposition. So I'm going to go ahead now and share with you how I've kind of engaged. I wanted to just share what my prompt was so you can do this as well, but you can also do it via voice prompt, right? So like I said, I have the paid version and I've already prompted it. So I'm going to share with you kind of how then I proceed to understand the measures in a way, again, as I shared in previous posts, it distills the information that's out there in a way that I can digest it. So let's see how it goes. So I've already put the information in. So I just asked you to provide me the list of proposition measures that are on the upcoming 2024 election for Arizona. Can you go through each of them one by one with me so I can understand, what they are? Let's just start with the first one on the list.
Sure, let's go through each ballot measure one by one. We'll start with Proposition 133. Proposition 133, partisan primaries for partisan offices. This proposition seeks to amend the Arizona Constitution to require that primary elections for partisan offices be conducted along strict partisan lines. This means that for any office that is affiliated with a political party, e.g., state senator, U.S. representative, only candidates from that specific party would compete in the primary, and the number of nominees from each party would equal the number of positions open in the general election. The goal is to block efforts to implement nonpartisan or open primary systems, where all candidates, regardless of party affiliation, run together in the primary, and the top vote getters advance to the general election. Some advocates argue that such nonpartisan systems could dilute the power of individual political parties, while supporters of this measure believe it protects the integrity of political representation within parties. A yes vote on this proposition would enforce partisan primary rules, whereas a no vote would leave the door open for nonpartisan primary reforms in the future.
So can you give me an example?
Like more details, or if you're ready to move on to the next proposition.
So one thing I want to share with you guys, if you press and hold this, it doesn't interrupt you when you speak. So going back to the proposition, can you give me an example of how that would unfold? And then how is that different than now?
Thanks for the tip. Let's break down Proposition 133 with an example. Current system, before Prop 133. Arizona currently allows what's called open primaries for some local elections. This means that for certain offices, all candidates from all political parties, Republican, Democrat, Independent, etc., run in the same primary election. Voters, regardless of their party affiliation, can vote for any candidate. The top two candidates, regardless of party, move on to the general election. This system is meant to encourage broad competition and voter choice. Example of current system. Imagine you have a U.S. Senate election. There are 5 candidates, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, 1 independent. Under the current system, all 5 would appear on the primary ballot, and any voter can choose which candidates to vote for, regardless of the voter's party affiliation. The top 2 candidates, based on overall votes, advance to the general election. This could even result in 2 Democrats or 2 Republicans advancing to the general election. What Prop 133 would change? If Proposition 133 passes, the system would shift to partisan primaries. This means each political party holds its own primary, and only registered party members can vote in their party's primary.
Okay.
Example of partisan primaries. In the same Senate race, the 2 Republicans would appear on the Republican primary ballot. The 2 Democrats would appear on the Democratic primary ballot. The dependent candidate would likely skip the primary and go directly to the general election, depending on the rules for independents in that race. Voters registered as Republicans can only vote for Republican candidates, and the same goes for Democrats. The winner from each party's primary, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, moves on to the general election, even if another candidate outside of those parties, like the independent, is running. Key differences. Current system. Voters can vote across party lines, and the top 2 candidates, regardless of party, move to the general election. Under Prop 133, each party nominates 1 candidate in their own primary, and only voters registered with that party can participate. This proposition is designed to maintain party-specific control over the nomination process and avoid reforms that might allow more crossover voting or competition across party lines. Does this explanation help clarify things? Let me know if you'd like to explore it further or move on to the next proposition.
No, that was helpful. One thing I wanted to understand a little bit more was, what downfalls do we have if we were to move with the yes vote? I mean, what issues could come about?
A yes vote on Proposition 133 would certainly have some consequences that might raise concerns. Let's break down a few potential downfalls or issues. 1, less flexibility for voters. Currently, Arizona's open primary system allows independent or unaffiliated voters to participate in any party's primary election. If Proposition 133 passes, voters would only be allowed to participate in their own party's primary. This would limit the ability of independents, who make up a large portion of Arizona's electorate, to vote in primaries unless they specifically register with a party.
Okay.
It could reduce voter engagement and choice for many who prefer not to align with a particular party. 2. Reinforces partisan polarization. By limiting primary elections to party members only, Proposition 133 could encourage candidates to cater more to their party's base. Often, party primaries see lower turnout and are dominated by more ideologically driven voters. This could result in more extreme candidates emerging from primaries, since candidates may feel pressured to appeal to the more vocal partisan members of their party. It could increase polarization, making it harder for more moderate, more centrist candidates to make it to the general election. 3. Decreases competition. The current system, which sometimes allows two candidates from the same party to make it to the general election, creates more competition and choice in the general election. If Proposition 133 passes, it could reduce this competition by limiting voters' options to one candidate from each party. This could, in turn, decrease voter engagement in the general election if voters don't like the choices presented. 4. Could undermine efforts for electoral reform. One of the motivations behind open primaries or ranked choice voting, which Prop 133 seeks to block, is to increase voter participation and reduce partisan gridlock. By enforcing stricter partisan primaries, this proposition could stifle such reform efforts, maintaining the status quo of two-party dominance and limiting potential innovation in election systems that might better reflect voter preferences. Overall, while a yes vote would maintain strong party control over the candidate nomination process, it could have the unintended consequence of discouraging voter participation from independents, fostering more extreme candidates, and reducing general election competition. Does this address what you were curious about? Let me know if you'd like to explore this further or move on to the next proposition.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much for your help, Will. Let's see if he remembers.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could help clarify things. If you have any more questions in the future, feel free to reach out. Take care.
So, this is how I conduct my questioning with my ChatGPT guy. And like I said, I do this in the car and it gives me the education that I need. As you saw, I didn't fully understand the initial ballot measure. I didn't understand fully even with the follow-up explanation. So I needed some examples, and then I needed to understand a little bit more of like, what are the downstream impacts? What are the negative consequences? So it gave me a much better understanding about Proposition 133. I hope you liked what I shared today. Check it out. Use the prompt that I provided. You might have to prompt it a little bit more and say, hey, provide me the full list. You might want to check on another site first to see, how many measures you have. So you can come back and say, hey, ChatGPT, no, we have 13 measures, not just 12, right? And it will come back and say, oh, I'm sorry. Here's one more. So, but in general, it's really going to be super helpful for you. It's going to give you some information that you just didn't have before to help you make those really important decisions for your family. And I hope you liked it. Thumbs up the video, subscribe. We've got more exciting ways to use ChatGPT and modern parenting today and helping you figure out your way through parenthood in 2024.